Forensic Science Lecture, Chapter 1-2, Crime Labs. The history of the crime labs is a long one, but recent. But the oldest forensic lab actually in the U.S. was in LAPD's department. Los Angeles Police Department. It was created in 1923 by August Vollmer. He was a police chief for Berkeley, California, and later came down here and opened up or started this crime lab. In the U.S. today, there's approximately 411 public crime laboratories that operate at various levels of government. This is from the federal level through the state, through the county, and then the municipal, which is the individual cities. And there are more than 100 countries throughout the world that have at least one crime lab within their country. So these are resources that are all over, and a lot of them will interact and work together. The increase in number of crime labs is partially due to the fact that the Supreme Court made a decision for police to place a greater emphasis on scientifically evaluated evidence. This was made it easier to identify the different aspects of the crime, and it was harder to fight it because there was scientific backing. The other thing is that crime labs are actually inundated with drug specimens, and any drug specimen that comes in has to go through a crime lab and evaluated for its chemical makeup, and that is bogging down the crime lab. So more and more crime labs are coming into play so that these drugs can be examined. And then, of course, the development of the DNA profiling is not a lot like you see on the NCIS and CIS and all of that. It doesn't happen quickly. It does take quite a considerable amount of time to develop a DNA profile, especially if there isn't much of the DNA that's present in the collected evidence. Most crime labs, or most of these facilities, operate as part of the police department. Others may operate under the prosecutor's or district attorney's office, while some work with the medical examiner or coroners. But a lot of times what comes into play is that multiple facilities are being used to help evaluate the evidence. Local labs can provide services to county as well as municipal agencies or city agencies, and so there's some leeway in what can be, or who, I should say, who could be given that evidence to evaluate. Some of the services within a typical crime lab vary, okay, and there's actually quite a bit of variation depending on the level. Some of the reasons are the fact that local laws vary from city to city, state to state, and so on. Those laws differ, and so they need different crime labs with different capabilities. The other thing is the capabilities and the functions of the organization that the lab is attached to may be different, along with budgets, staffing, which is always a big issue. We got to have the money for it, got to have the people to do it. But what we're going to go over next are the 5 basic services that are provided by any full-service crime lab. And so any full-service crime lab have 5 basic units: the physical science unit, the biology unit, the firearms unit, document examination unit, and the photography unit. And these are basic, meaning that no matter where you go, any full crime scene, crime lab is going to provide these, depending on how much money they have and what these labs are attached to, what facility they're attached to, they may have also a number of optional services. If they don't have these services, then they have to go outside of their kind of area to get them done. But toxicology units, latent fingerprint units, polygraph units, voice analysis, and then crime scene investigations units as well. So these are optional. Although many do have one or more of these, it is still dependent on, again, those factors: money, what facility they're attached to. There are also some specialized forensic science services available, and these are very highly specialized services. These ones typically are on the outside of the crime lab, but are also still available to the law enforcement personnel. But these are things like forensic psychiatry, forensic odontology, forensic engineering, and forensic computer and digital analysis. So this is a typical crime lab. These are the typical crime lab areas that they offer to police enforcement or law enforcement to aid in these crime scenes. Okay, have a good night, and we will see you next class.